So, quick analysis on the new indictment that's been returned, Trump's latest attack on his enemies. Letitia James, New York State Attorney General, has been indicted for basically bank fraud and false statements to a bank. She is the New York State Attorney General who convicted Trump, his pretty much whole family, and his organizations of civil fraud for misstatements of financial information to banks. She's been indicted by the Trump DOJ for bank fraud. I was on a show tonight with Leland Vertet on News Nation, who pointed out, a lot of irony here, right? And I said, Trump probably understands an irony. Maybe he understands the word irony, but he's really focused on retribution, right? Because she did this to him, got these convictions, so he's doing it to her. And the fact that it's also having to do with misstatements to banks, it is significant, and we're going to dive into why it's significant besides the irony aspect of it. So the question is it just like the very weak James Comey indictment and simply his continuation, Trump's continuation of his enemies hit list, or is there some distinctions there? Answer, yes and no. Let's take a look at why. But first, let me remind you to subscribe, make us the biggest as well as the best news analysis, political analysis, legal analysis station. So hit that button. So first, how is it different? The indictment is longer, LOL, right? It actually describes the allegations, unlike the Comey one, which practically describes nothing. And the allegations are that James claimed the house as a secondary residence when she didn't actually live in it, but instead rented it out. Now, I don't know what the grand jury vote was here. We probably will find out. I would guess it's stronger than the Comey indictment because here, at least, the allegations are spelled out. There's something for the grand jury to look at and go, oh, well, if this is true, assuming the evidence exists, then the grand jury is using a very low standard, just probable cause, will say, okay, fine, indict. So we'll have to see what the count actually was here. After all, theoretically, if you can prove that Letitia James lied on these applications, mortgage documents, then you can prove she lied. So treat her like everyone else, just like if Comey lied. But here are the problems in showing whether she lied or not. So we'll put up some pages for the indictment for you. A big difference, it's 5 pages instead of the 2 pages for the Comey one. Take a look at count 1 and count 2, and you'll see a couple of problems here. So with count 1, the language I want you to focus on there is going to be, and Lawrence O'Donnell did a good job emphasizing this tonight, where it talks about the representations, and the key phrase is she had no intended or actual personal use by her, meaning at the time she did that, right, filled it out, she didn't intend to actually use it. So that's an important point because it appears in both count 1 and count 2. And so you have to go back in time then on the intent, right? At the time she did that, what was her intent? It might be black and white to show that, as they allege, that it was rented out, so therefore, okay, so it's not a personal residence, it was rented out. But if the key element's going to be what her intention was at the time, that's going to be a mess. Good luck with that, prosecutors. Maybe that's why the original U.S. attorney that Trump forced out and replaced with Lindsay Halligan refused to indict James. Too fuzzy of an area to prove beyond a reasonable doubt, which is the standard they need to use in deciding whether to bring the case or not, and obviously the standard they'll have to meet before a jury. Like the Comey case, Lindsay Halligan, the former insurance lawyer, is again the only signatory on the indictment, and we'll see who shows up in court with her. If it's the same 2 sub guys that she pulled in from the North Carolina office because there was no one apparently in the Eastern District of Virginia, her office, who was willing to do the Comey case, well, that's going to indicate again she might be standing by herself. It's really quite stunning when you think about that, and we'll find out more in the future. But if she really can't find anybody in her own office to do these cases with her, I mean, you do kind of wonder, gee, why don't you just fire the whole office for insubordination? Again, selective prosecution, vindictive prosecution are certainly going to be raised. And again, like Comey, it makes it likely the case never gets to a trial. Now, a little bit more of a real estate type comps you can do here on selective prosecution, because, as Jeff Toobin pointed out on CNN tonight, the price of the house was around $127,000 that she bought here, in a year where the average U.S. house cost $383,000. The total difference she defrauded the banks for amounted to less than $19,000. And to use the Trump defense, which is, no harm, no foul, right? The banks still made money. Where's the loss to the bank here that they couldn't charge 0.815% higher in the interest? Yes, that's actually from the indictment. We'll put that up for you. In fact, the entire amount of forfeiture DOJ wants is about $18,000 and some change. That's the first point in selective prosecution is government, show us the comps, right? Show us other cases where DOJ prosecuted over such a small amount, holding aside the proof problems. Just for this kind of amount, when did they actually prosecute? Because DOJ actually has standards and thinks about, is it worth the cost to go after such a small amount of money in a criminal case? On the vindictive side, kind of no-brainer here, right? It's retribution for her having exercised her right to do her job as a prosecutor. She's being retaliated against because she prosecuted Trump and successfully. And as always there, Exhibit A is going to be what comes out of Trump's mouth. But as we saw in the Comey case, there's going to be motions seeking discovery here. The defense is going to want to hear from these people to show the selective, the vindictive nature of this. They'll want Halligan, they'll want the former U.S. Attorney General Pam Bondi, Trump himself, right? All makes perfect sense to ask these people to testify, and you know what that means. Litigation after litigation, and while the trial court is very fast, part of the so-called rocket docket in the Eastern District of Virginia, doesn't mean the Court of Appeals is going to be that fast. And at the end of the day, watch for the conservative majority on SCOTUS to step in and try to protect any of those in the executive branch that Trump wants to prevent from testifying. It'll be a long haul just to get through the actual pretrial motions for them to get decided and appealed. So stay tuned. Talk to you soon.
In collaboration with the Midas Touch Network, we just launched the Legal AF YouTube channel. Help us build this pro-democracy channel where I'll be curating the top stories at the intersection of law and politics. Go to YouTube now and free subscribe at Legal AF MTN. That's at Legal AF MTN.